Hello everyone, JRod here. In this video I will show you the process I used to optimize my Modular Diagon Alley MOC, from the point where I needed almost 3,000 extra parts to the point where I need around 2,000, by using 1,000 additional parts from the two Diagon Alley LEGO sets that I have. This process can be used for any MOC of any size and can help you save money on additional parts without compromising your design. So let's go into the explanation and you'll thank me later. The process is split into 3 phases. The first phase is for setting up everything needed to do the optimization. My starting point is the studio file with the MOC design. We will start to export the file with the list of parts. In Studio, select File, Export as Parts List. Name your file and select where to store it in your computer. This is a CSV file that can be edited in any version of Microsoft Excel or using Google Sheets. I don't have Excel, so I'll use Google Sheets. I go to Google Drive, set up a folder by selecting New, Folder and giving it a name. Now, inside the folder, I find the file in the Windows Explorer and drag the file to Google Drive. You can see that it wasn't immediately identified by Google as a spreadsheet. To solve that, just double-click on the file and it will open the preview of the file. And here on top, there's an Open With drop-down. Click it and select the option Google Sheets. It creates a new tab with the file opened in Google Sheets. The file is automatically saved. If you go back to the Google Drive folder, you will now see 2 files, the one you copied there and its Google Sheets version. Now we need to do the same for the 2 times Diagon Alley LEGO set, so we can compare them. In Studio, close all other files and create a new one. Then go to File, Import and select Import Official LEGO Set. This opens a dialog box where you can fill in the set number. In this case, I want the Diagon Alley LEGO set, which is number 75978. So I fill in the number in the search box and wait a few seconds. You can confirm in the preview box if it's the correct set. And you can choose to include or not the minifigure parts and the extra parts. I don't want the minifigures, as I didn't include them in the MOC, but I want the extra parts, because they are useful to reduce the number of parts I need to buy. Then click Import. This feature is what the designers of alternative builds to official LEGO sets use. They import the set and then work with the available parts to build their design. This was a tip that I got from Kim Plata, also known as LEGO Artisan, an amazing MOC designer that does a bunch of alternative builds. This beautiful scenario of parts laid down in rows is what you get in the end. But we only have here the parts of one Diagon Alley LEGO set, and we need 2. We need to repeat the process to add a second one. I haven't found any way to do this more efficiently. If you know any, let me know in the comments. Now we have 2 Diagon Alley LEGO sets here. It looks exactly the same to when we had only 1, but the total number of parts corresponds to 2 sets. This happens because when the parts are added here, they are placed by an algorithm that doesn't take into account the existing pieces. They are always put in the same place, it doesn't matter if there is already another piece there. With 2 equal sets, you have 2 parts per position. If I go here and move a piece, see that another one is still in the original place. But anyway, this is not relevant to what we want, which is the part list of 2 Diagon Alley LEGO sets. If we have a file in Studio with that, it's just a matter of repeating the process we used for the MOC file. Export as parts list, copy to Google, and open in Google Sheets. So now we have 2 Google Sheets, one with the parts used in the MOC and another with the parts available. And what we want is to reduce the difference between the MOC and the sets. It's time to apply some math to help us out. Open both sheets. We need them in the same file to make it easier to compare. Since during the process the parts of the MOC will change, but not the composition of the LEGO sets, I use the Diagon Alley MOC parts file as my work file, and leave the 2 times Diagon Alley set parts file on the side, as it might be needed again during the process, and I avoid having to generate it again. To copy it, right-click the sheet name in the bottom of the screen, select Copy to, and then Existing Spreadsheet. Select the MOC parts file and the new sheet will appear in that file with the name Copy of the original sheet name. You can remove this copy off if you want, no harm comes from that. So now we have both the MOC parts and the set parts in the same file in 2 separate sheets. Let's add a few more columns to each sheet, it might be useful. To add a column, right-click the header of the last column and select Insert one column to the right. In the MOC parts sheet, we will fill in one column with the number of parts available and another with the number of parts needed. These parts needed will be the extra parts we will have to buy. In the parts available column, we put this formula. Basically, what it will do is search the 2 Diagon Alley parts sheets for a match using the element ID in column B as the search key, and return the quantity value, the 8th column between columns B and J, on the line that was a match. And we added here a catch. If the search returns an error, that means that no match was found, we set the parts available as 0. In practice, this column will show the amount of pieces of that part type that exist in 2 sets of Diagon Alley. In the parts needed column, we will put this formula, which basically gives the difference between the number of parts used in the MOC and the number of parts available in the sets, with the special validation that if there are more parts available than are used in the MOC, the number of needed parts is not negative, but 0. In the 2 Diagon Alley sets sheet, we do kind of the opposite. We will fill one column with the amount of parts used in the MOC and another with the spare parts, the ones that will remain from the sets after the MOC is built. So the formulas are similar. In the parts used in the MOC column, the formula will search for a match to this part type in the list of parts used in the MOC and get the quantity value, setting it to 0 if the part type was not found. And in the spare parts column, the formula is subtracting from the available parts the used parts to obtain the spare parts, and setting to 0 any negative number. One thing to pay attention to is that we are using the element ID to match the part types, because it's a unique identifier of the part. But Studio might not know it for all the part types, so some values in that column might be empty and not matched, although they should. To solve this, we will need the help of filters. To add filters, just select all the cells and select Data in the top menu and then Create Filter. Now filter the Element ID column, clearing all the values and selecting only blanks. And doing the same on the other sheet. And now manually compare the lists from both sheets and find common parts. For the common parts, fill in the element ID column with the same unique value in both sheets. I use the BrickLink item number and the BrickLink color ID split by a hyphen. As the values are filled, the magic happens. Other useful things that might help you during the optimization. Adjust the column sizes to show as much information as possible, without overflowing to outside the screen. Having the column names always visible. You can freeze the first line by selecting View in the top menu, then freeze and clicking in the option One Row. Adding the sum of the parts needed and the spare parts. This will tell you how many parts you need to buy and how many will be spared from the sets. I even usually store the initial value, so I can get the notion of how much the optimization process has achieved. To do it, select the first empty cell in the Parts Needed column after the full list of parts and click on the Insert top menu and then Function and choose Sum. Then fill in L2 followed by a colon and then L and the number of the last line of the list, in this case 1133. Do the same in the spare parts column, and if you want to keep track, write the number you got in the cell below. You can't copy it because you will be copying the formula. Color the cells with conditional formatting. For example, in the Parts Needed column, where are the extra parts needed to build a MOC, setting the cells with 0 to green and bigger than 0 to red, so it's easy to see which part types are missing. To do it, click on the header of that column and then select Format in the top menu and then Conditional Formatting. It will open a right sidebar where you can configure rules. You need to add two rules, one with the rule greater than 0 and a reddish tone, making sure the numbers are still visible, and the other with the equal to 0 and a greenish tone. To make your life easier, in the description of the video there's a link to a sample file with all these already done. You just have to clone it to your own Google Drive account. You're welcome. Now, let's start optimizing. To optimize, I work with the 4 models open in Studio, because I want to keep working with 4 separate models, and it will be easier to make all the changes with each building in one file. Of course, you can use only one file if your MOC is only in one file. It will be easier. In the Google Sheet, select one part type where the amount needed is bigger than 0, the reddish cells. Search by the BrickLink item ID to see where it is being used and understand if and how it can be optimized. Can it be optimized in any way? Do the changes in the MOC file in Studio and do the corresponding changes in the spreadsheet, reducing the number of parts used but also adding the additional parts you added. This is important, so you keep track of what you already reduced, but also of the spare parts you used, to make sure you don't use the same spare parts to replace several different parts, and end up needing to buy parts that originally you had spares of. As an example, I'm going to replace a 1x8 brick by two 1x4 bricks of the same color. I do the change in Studio, now I go to the spreadsheet and reduced by 1 the parts needed for the 1x8 dark bluish gray brick, and I need to increase by 2 the parts needed for the 1x4 dark bluish gray brick. In the case of parts that were in the sets but are not used in the MOC, you need to reduce their number in any way in the sets part sheet, as they don't appear in the MOC sheet. I followed a certain order when optimizing that I think worked very well. 1. Go part type by part type, but jump the generic bricks, plates and tiles. Check if a different available color would be suitable. For instance, is the piece hidden? Verify what other parts in the same color are available. Can it be designed differently using those parts? For example, I was using tiles with round and diagonal shapes to create the holes in the pavement in the back alley, but found out I had extra wedge plates that could create a similar or even better effect. Think, what would LEGO do? My goal is to design something at the level of a LEGO set, and LEGO often makes compromises. For example, I decided that using black instead of reddish brown in the clip piece in the handrail of the back alley stairs would be fine. Be on the lookout for old versions of parts. It's easy to make a mistake in Brick Studio and use the old parts. I had a bunch of 3794A plate modified 1x2 with one stud without groove jumper instead of the common 15573 plate modified 1x2 with one stud with groove and bottom stud holder jumper. 2. It's time to check bricks, plates and tiles, but in this case, instead of going by part type, go by color and look for optimizations. Take advantage of numbers. 2 1x4 is equal to 1x8, for instance. But make sure you don't jeopardize the stability of the model. Sometimes you do need that 1x16 brick. Do you need a lot of one color and have an excess of another? Maybe you can change the color of a wall without changing the identity of the build. For example, I had an excess of black and reddish brown bricks, but would need to buy a lot of dark green bricks. I changed the walls in the back of flourish and blots to adjust to the parts, and in my opinion, it's looking fine for a back alley. 3. Check if your design has special areas where you can easily optimize the colors. My example are the ones in Ollivanders and the books in Flourish and Blots. I could easily play around with the colors without risking the cohesiveness of the design. 4. Take a broad look at the parts that are being wasted. Any creative way of taking advantage of them and saving the need for additional parts? For instance, I had several round and wedged plates that I could use as a support layer for the ground in the first floor or the rooftops of the buildings. I also had an excess of Technic 1x1 brick with hole that I could use in replacement of regular 1x1 bricks, as long as the hole stays hidden. 5. Check if there are spare plates in some colors where there's a need for bricks. 3 1x1 plates can replace a 1x1 brick, and the same is valid for other sizes. It's even possible to replace a bigger brick with an assortment of smaller plates. But you shouldn't overdo it, or it will start to visually impact your design. I managed to reuse 1x1 and 1x4 plates to replace 4 1x1 bricks and 1 1x4 brick. During the second phase, you have been changing the spreadsheet and your model at the same time. We are human, we make mistakes, so odds are that at some point you missed changing things on one side and now the model and the spreadsheet are not completely correct. It's time to redo phase 1 again, but with the updated model in BrickLink Studio. Now, if you feel there are still many optimizations to do, you can repeat phase 2. If not, I advise you just to do these final steps. 1. Check one by one the new types of parts you are using and check if they all make sense. This is done by filtering by the 0 available pieces. 2. Check the parts that you need only one extra of. Can you replace it with an available part? Can you replace it with another part color that you already need to buy? When buying from sellers in BrickLink, it will probably be cheaper if you buy the same amount of pieces split by less types of parts. Did you manage to reduce any parts that you needed one extra of? Then repeat for the ones you need 2 extra of. Repeat until you reach a number where you couldn't really optimize anything. When that happens, you probably optimized enough. As a final note, let me tell you that optimization is something that you can always do a bit more. You can always compromise a bit more, so you need to be careful to not overdo it. As the MOC creator, you need to also defend your design and not be available to compromise if you think it will negatively impact your idea. Your design being what you envisioned is the most important thing. With this process, I managed to reduce the need for extra parts in my Modular Diagon Alley MOC from 2,993 to 2,009 pieces, without compromising the design. It took me 75 hours to achieve this, but I started with no idea of how to do it, and I ended up with a process I can share with all of you. If I started it again, I would take much less to get to the same outcome. With the parts optimized, I now have 2009 pieces to order from LEGO and BrickLink and 4 instructions to build. If something in this video was not clear, just let me know in the comment section and I will try to explain it better. Remember to like and subscribe, and I see you soon.